Hello! Welcome to part 2 of how to make Eeveelution ears for cosplay. From part 1, for each of your ears you should already have 2 pieces of interfacing, 2 pieces of your main fabric, in this case felt, and 1 piece of darker fabric for the little interior part. Now in this case these are brown because they're for Eevee. And the reason that they're brown and not orange and black, which is what you'll see in the rest of the video, is because I already started putting Flareon together before I realized I needed to film this intro. So that's that. So that's what you'll need for each ear. And then you'll need your headband with the wire that we went over last time. And with that, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is hem the edges of the interior pieces. So I've pinned it down here, and then we're going to sew using our sewing machine. You could do it by hand if you want, and I find it helps if you put a piece of paper underneath the fabric if your fabric is very thin like mine was. The next step is sewing 1 interior piece to 1 outer piece. Now that we've sewn the black piece onto the orange piece, it's time to sew your second outer piece to it, and it's just going to go right on top like that. And we're not going to sew all the edges because we'll need to be able to turn it inside out to hide the seam. So here I've outlined where we'll be sewing. Now that you've sewn the right side together, it's time to turn it inside out using that little gap that you left for yourself. So this part's kind of messy. You just pull it inside out, and the tip is, because it's pointy, it's going to be a little hard to get just right. So I use a chopstick to poke it. You can use like the end of a pencil or really anything that's like nice and long and thin to get the little end so that you've got the right shape. Now it's time to add the interfacing to the inside of the ears. Normally when working with interfacing, you would iron this onto the fabric first before sewing any pieces together, but when I was working on my Sylveon ears, the type of fabric I used wasn't very good at sticking to the interfacing, no matter how many times I tried to iron it. So I ended up going with this process. I think it actually ends up working pretty well, because you don't want the 2 inside interfacing pieces to stick to each other too much, because you're going to want it to go on either side of the wire on the headband. So what we actually do is we take our fabric, and so I've clearly labeled my pieces so I won't forget. And this is for the right ear. And so we have the nice little opening, and it's really just shoving it in there. Which is interesting too, because this felt fabric catches. So it's not gonna be the most beautiful looking process. There we go. So now you've got this big opening where you put the interfacing. What we're gonna do is, you can either use your sewing machine or do it by hand. You're going to sew shut this line, again keeping this part open because that's where it's gonna connect with the headband. At this stage, you can add pillow stuffing to the inside of the ears if you'd like to give it a bit more shape. And now the home stretch. So this part we'll be using a hot glue gun. Of course, be very careful with it. And the way that we're doing this is the wire will go in between the 2 pieces of interfacing for the ears. You can see how I did that just then. I kind of opened it up and then put the wire in. And now, lots and lots of hot glue later, we've got Flareon ears, or whatever Eevee ears you decided to do. I think the process would be about the same for all of them, except for Umbreon, which is, the shape is a little bit different. But for all the other ones, I'm pretty sure this method will work just fine. You just have to switch out the colors and maybe the the shape. I know Sylveon's is a bit rounder with like a little poof thing coming out here. Flareon has this angle to it, I noticed, and Jolteon, of course, is very spiky. So you would keep that in mind while making it. But overall, this is the process that I would use. I'm going to be using this again while I make my other coworker Eevee ears, like actual Eevee ears. These are pretty big. They're pretty tall. They're a lot taller than my Sylveon ears, but I'm hoping they look proportional to my coworker because she's taller than me. If not, she'll just have giant ears, and there is nothing wrong with that. Thank you for joining in. I hope you enjoyed this and you found it helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye!